Altagracia Gómez, who has a slightly complicated title, so tell us exactly what you're doing these days. And is going to be speaking on behalf of Mexico. And Mexico has managed to, thus far, navigate the very slippery tightrope of dealing with your northern neighbour pretty deftly and impressively. But tell us how you see the outlook for growth right now with Mexico, because, of course, we do have a situation where America's trying to suck out a lot of the factories that have been based in Mexico up into the north, which could certainly undermine your growth. And you are under pressure from many sides now. So tell us what you're doing to try and maintain growth.
Thank you. Well, we're excited to be here. So when President Sheinbaum started her campaign in November 2023, she had three main priorities on the regional economic development and nearshoring side. On the one hand, she realized that there was a need to reimagine or transform the relationship that private initiative, academics, and government had of working together. And so she created this Business Advisory Council that I chair, that is part of the Economic Cabinet and that works very closely together to set industrial policy that can not only spike growth, but also shared prosperity. The second thing, or her second conviction, was that Mexico needed not only a government plan for investment and for growth, but a country plan that had a long-term vision of where we wanted to be and how do we get there. Not only with the infrastructure enablers, airports, ports, freight trains, cross-border transit and whatnot, that give us more competitiveness, but also an infrastructure that gives you welfare, right? Hospitals, schools, et cetera, and that all of these should be in one grand plan that had very specific KPIs, and that was Plan Mexico. She presented Plan Mexico exactly 1 year ago. Plan Mexico is a plan that was built with private initiative, with the academics in Mexico. It has 13 goals. The first one, the last one, are probably the most general and the most ambitious. We want to be one of the top 10 economies in the world. We're currently number 12. And we want to be a country with less poverty and less inequality. The past 6 years, government policies, particularly the raise in minimum wage, have gotten 13 million people out of poverty in Mexico. And the rest of the goals, number 2 to 12, is how we intend to get there. And some of my fellow panelists have already touched on this. But the goal number 2 is we want that 25% of our GDP is investment, at least by 2026.
25%?
25%. And want to pull it up to 28% by 2030, because that's the only way to break the growth barrier, right? But we also want that we are, as you know, one of the top 6 countries with most engineer graduates and STEM graduates in the world. We have more than double than Brazil yearly. We have more per capita than the United States. And we want these graduates to be able to have social mobility and labor mobility. And so we want to link them to specialized manufacturing. We have some challenges on simplification and digitalization of permits. And so there's a specific goal on that. We want investments to be able to land in Mexico, not in 2.7 years like it's right now, but in 1 year by the end of the administration. And this is, we have a new ministry for simplification, which its main job is to cut down federal, municipal, and local permits and to homologue them. And when you look at the rest of the goals, they have to do with dual education programs. They have to do with resilience of supply chains. But they also have to do, and to answer specifically your question, to how we navigate a new world in which both the paradigm of what we consider to be market economy, but also what we consider to be globalization, have fundamentally changed. And where we think Mexico can lead this new wave of both market economies and different way to understand globalization. Mexico is currently #1 producer of heavy-duty trucks, #4 of auto parts, #6 of light vehicles, #4 of medical devices, the only country in Latin America that produces semiconductors, particularly ATP. We're top 10 countries and 17 of critical minerals, or the most strategic minerals in the world. We have enormous potential for energy, and specifically in renewable energies and transition energies. And so with the most sophisticated economy in Latin America, the second most sophisticated in the continent, we believe we have a chance not only to specialize, but also to consolidate. Aerospace industry, also top 9 in the world. And so to do this, there is industrial policy that has 5 principles. The first one's, how do we include people we've never included before? Women, young people, small and medium businesses, and south and southeastern part of the country. 2, how do we become more innovative? Because being top 10 in many specialized manufacturing, we still have long way to go in added value. And so how do we incentivize research and development and technology transfer? 3, sustainability. And being herself a doctor in energy and sustainability, we are very committed not only to an energy transition, but also to water efficiency programs and to communities. How do we impact positively communities through business? 4, digitalization, which is one of her main programs, not only to simplify, not only to homologue, but also to give access to better economic, social, and cultural rights to Mexicans, housing, transportation, and whatnot. And the last one is regional vocations. We recognize that free trade should remain as one of the pillars in the world, but also in Mexico. But we also recognize that for free trade to exist, there needs to be fair trade. And we do celebrate that that policies, even right-wing countries, are looking at trade from a way that says it needs to get better conditions, labor conditions for the working class people. The standard minimum wage of living needs to provide enough quality of life and social mobility. And there needs to be a fight together to eradicate subvaluation, subsidized production, and technical contraband.
Right.
So that is kind of the policy that we've been following, and we think there are enormous perspectives, and we can land this correctly.
Right.
That aspect is very relevant, in my opinion.
What about from Mexico's perspective? I mean, are you more concerned about international instability than internal instability?
So Mexico has kind of been an outlier in Latin America for the past maybe 20 years or even a bit more in terms of macro stability, right? We have an independent central bank. We have inflation that is very much stable. No, it had gone up in 2021, 2022, as so did in the world, but it has very technical elements to deal with macro stability, particularly at a monetary level and at a fiscal level even. No, we're probably one of the countries that has the best ratio debt to GDP, not only in Latin America, but even the OECD.
Yes,
right?
And the G7. I think you beat the G7.
And if you look at all the other factors, right, we have the second lowest level of unemployment in the OECD. There is macro stability. But that is not to say that it is not a huge challenge and a huge opportunity. And probably, as Minister of Brazil just mentioned, we have a huge opportunity in infrastructure. No, we're currently, yes, the 12th economy, but then number 59 in logistical competitiveness. And so there is a huge bridge you can still walk through if there is mixed investment rules on key infrastructure that we can grow. obviously, the number two is the coordination that is needed. Being a federation and being, 32 different local entity plus 2,500 municipalities, there is a challenge to align priority towards our key projects. And that has always been a challenge to navigate, particularly for investors.
Right.
And this is why going digital is particularly important. This is why it's particularly a priority. And number three, and it was also mentioned by Brazil, it was productivity. Mexico has made it a point to change labor laws so that, again, we can increase over 100% our minimum wage in the last 5 years. And this has brought the strengthening of the inner market. It has increased consumption. It has done many good things.
Right.
But it is also key to increase productivity. And
Right.
so added value within the region and what we can do to innovate and to incorporate technology changes will be particularly important going forward.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I've got a lot more questions. Can Mexico create a big tech?
So Chapter 2 of Plan Mexico is decided on that, specifically on AI, and it also has 4 pillars, as you know. The first one has to do with infrastructure, the second one has to do with education, the third one has to do with industrial policy, and specifically the role that development banks are going to play to accelerate this kind of companies, or big tech companies. And the fourth one has to do with how do we bring investments and specialization zones. We've created, on the one hand, the biggest upskilling boot camp of 25,000 people yearly with the 60 biggest companies and hyperscalers in 28 different tracks of AI, starting this January, actually. And they also have a plan for different data centers, the National AI Laboratory, digital identity, and stacks. And so, yeah.
You're fighting for it. James, I see you want to come in.